You're listening to the Higher Ideas Podcast, where ideas grow. Connect on Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, or higherideas.net. Now here's your host, I.
Hello, fellow human, and welcome to this session of Mind Yoga. In physical yoga, we slowly bring our bodies to exotic positions to increase flexibility. Mind Yoga does the same with your perceptions, by following a trail of logic to novel and unexpected places. So let's put aside the 9-to-5 grind for a moment and spend some time thinking about the deeper things. All you have to do is relax, follow along, and above all, think about it. Are you ready, fellow human? Here we go. What is a human being? Behold the human being, in this case male, a conscious, breathing, living creature. But just what is the human being, this thing we call ourselves? Let's explore this like any good scientist would and get to dissecting the problem. Let's say for a moment we remove the limbs. Sorry, friends. Now, is this a human being? No. Is this a human being? No. Is this a human being? Ah, yes. Naturally, even the most extreme amputees are still human beings if they survive their injuries. So, a human being is not a grand total of parts. An important clue. Let's keep that in mind. And let's dissect this another way. Say we could take away this human being's skin while somehow keeping him alive and healthy. Let's provide an imaginary, life-supporting fluid called Fluid X to keep everything in good health as we dig in. And away goes the skin. Shocking! But still a human being. I'm sure you'll agree. Now, let's get these muscles, fascia, and fat out of the way. Well, still not too attractive, but still alive and kicking. A very unfortunate way to live, yes, but still a human being. So no more working muscles, suspended in fluid. Bones aren't really needed anymore either, so out they go. And how about now? Is this suspended mass of vessels, glands, and organs still a human being? You might not recognize it anymore, but just like a surviving amputee, yes, this is still a human being. In fact, all that lovely stuff is suspended in fluids inside you right now, just this same way. This is what's inside you, right now, held together by bones and muscles instead of magical Fluid X. Speaking of which, with Fluid X providing all necessary nourishment and oxygen, I don't suppose the digestive system is needed anymore. With no food nutrients to circulate, the heart can go too. Just like the lungs, which existed only to bring oxygen to the blood. Well, all we have left now is a free-floating, vulnerable, naked nervous system. So this is what all that structure and machinery were really supporting. This is what your body is all about carrying. So, is this a human being? The accurate conclusion, however unintuitive, is still yes, it is. A massively disabled human being. All this person can do now is float there and just exist in there, somewhere. It's surreal, but this is very much a living person, in perfect health thanks to Fluid X. Interesting how without all those body parts, which are really only tools, we've boiled down a human being to something which reminds me of a jellyfish. There it floats, demonstrating not much intelligence or activity. Less active than a jellyfish, in fact. And yet we know that inside that thing is a human being, right now. Inside that paralyzed thing is another person, another you, another me. Now a quick side note. What does that say about the jellyfish? Maybe a jellyfish holds all the same consciousness a human being does, but simply displays no sign that we understand. For all we know, the oceans are teeming with naked, genius minds far wiser than ours, which we call the lowly jellyfish. I imagine that the earliest forms of complex life in the oceans of primitive Earth probably looked something very much like a simple jellyfish. Even today, jellyfish look like some eruption out of the microscopic world, don't they? Something existing at the edge of another reality. And perhaps eventually, in the primal oceans of Earth, some prehistoric jellyfish evolved protective flesh around their delicate tendrils, in which they could begin forming basic muscle connections. Muscles controlled with impulses sent through their tendrils, allowing for new methods of mobility. And so the jellyfish became a basic nervous system. As design and muscle complexity elaborated further, skeletons became a necessity, both ecto and endo, leading to the primal beginnings of fish and crustacean life. Now the jellyfish was essentially safe within a contained ocean environment. Able to create more and more mobility, it became possible to venture out of the waters and onto land, and the rest is history. Crustaceans colonized the land as insects, fish colonized as reptiles, which became birds, mammals, and of course, the human being. We're back to the human being, which we now see in a completely different light, as some sort of ancient jellyfish which has survived and evolved through mind-blowing ages of this earth. So, now let's get rid of the brain system. There's nothing left. That's all, folks. A human being is actually a brain. We've answered the question. But something feels wrong, doesn't it? We missed something somehow. Let's backtrack and see where we went wrong. A living human brain. Still a human being. Is there a part we forgot to dissect? Well, let's say we could perfectly replace all of this flesh with advanced computer circuitry, like a perfect prosthetic limb, which would continue to support consciousness. That's what we forgot. Consciousness. That invisible, intangible process which we forgot the whole brain exists to nurture. It's easy to miss it. Even the finest tools of science still haven't caught it. Only its echoes. So let's ask now, is that consciousness in a machine still a human being? Here most people would tend towards no. It now seems something inhuman, alien. Suddenly the complete lack of flesh suggests a complete loss of humanity. But wait, the same mind is still in there. So why the disconnect? Something has changed. Is this consciousness not human? Let's investigate. Take a complete human body, and somehow remove only the conscious mind. Is that fleshy, brainless creature still a human being? Not really. It's still able to walk around, the brain is still in there, it can still eat, but nobody's home. We have words for this thing. Zombie, ghoul, undead. A functioning human body without a soul. Definitely not a human being, just a human body. This is getting weird. But don't be disheartened. We've actually just found our answer. A human being is not one thing. A human being is a combination of two things. The term human being is two-parted. The human and the being. The body, all of the fleshy genetic machine, right down even to the brain itself, is what we call the human. Just like we call another thing dog, cat, bee, whale, these are all different versions of animal life. And that is the human. What's inside the human is a being. Something intangible, immeasurable, a thing of complete mystery to all our finest schools of knowledge. And that thing is you. You, conscious, electric, aware, a raw force of life like a thunderbolt from hyperspace. This being that you are is the true jewel of the human race. It is the precious thing that each of our bodies carries, treasures, and nurtures. The thing that all societies of history have also been intended to support, nurture, and treasure above all things. The human soul, the human being, you. So what is this precious cargo exactly? Where does this being come from? Where does consciousness exist? Is it created by the brain, or does the brain manifest around it? We could suppose many things and never know which is true. So for now, we'd better be satisfied having answered our initial question. What is a human being? You, my fellow human being, are a formless creature of energy. A mind, an awareness, pure consciousness, a soul, rooted to an ancient jellyfish we call a brain, which exists in a self-contained, mobile ocean we call a body. That consciousness's drive since the beginning of life on Earth has been to survive, improve, and explore all the corners of this world, and perhaps someday, even other worlds out there. And that does it for today's Mind Yoga session. Until next time, keep thinking.